There are monsters in this world. And those people who are not aware of the monsters in this world and don't know how to recognize them and don't know how to identify them are at a distinct disadvantage and are vulnerable. I'm not talking about vampires and werewolves, but I am talking about people who look like us and can act like us for the most part, but do not think like most of us. They do not function like most of us. Specifically, I'm talking about sociopaths and psychopaths, but even more specifically, toxic narcissists. Most of us are already familiar with the fact that political power, or any power, attracts narcissists and sociopaths and psychopaths. But I also mean that the state as a whole, as an institution, functions down to the detail the way toxic narcissist functions. And the reason that's worth knowing is because the same methods that defeat and disempower individuals who are toxic narcissists can also be used to disempower tyrants and tyrannical regimes. So, most of what I'm going to say today applies in two very distinct ways. The former you may or may not care about, the latter I hope you do. Methods to use and things to know so that you don't give narcissistic people power over you, and more importantly, that we don't give narcissistic states power over the world. You will never meet the real them. Everything they do 24 hours a day in front of other people is an act. They are pretending. They are pretending with the sole goal of getting you to be a source of power and attention for them. Every political campaign is exactly that. What is he going to pretend to be? We're going to look at the polls. We think if you get in the back of a pickup truck and you wear this, people will think you're one of them. That's how they think. The monsters basically think, what do I have to pretend to be to get them to give me power, to get them to give me control over them? It's the same with the individual as it is with the individual politician and with government as a whole. Governments, the nastiest tyranny you can think of, never did they come out and say, we want power because we want to control you and dominate you and probably hurt you and steal a bunch of stuff from you. They always say, we are here to serve you. We are here to help you. They are always putting up a front, putting on the act that looks like it's for your benefit. All the rhetoric about, we serve you, a servant government that represents the people. That was BS from day one. They gravitate towards those positions of power to get power for themselves. In their view, you are only ever a source of attention and glory and praise and money and power for them. In psychology, that's referred to as being a supply. The toxic narcissist tries to find somebody who will supply them with endless and unconditional adoration and subservience and all that nasty stuff. Often such people are into something called neuro-linguistic programming. This is basically the understanding of how little words and gestures can control somebody else. The campaign speeches, I feel your pain, I'm one of you, and I'm going to go make the hard decisions and work for you, by way of telling you what to do and stealing your money. They don't say the last part, but we all know that's what government does. Government is violence. But they don't pitch it as that. They pitch it as, we're on your side. Now, in the case of individual narcissists, they do something called love bombing, which is, oh, you're so awesome, you're so great in so many ways, I just totally adore you, you're outstanding, to get their hooks in you. And then once you're committed, then the hooks dig deeper. And you start to see little glimpses of, wait a minute, they're not serving us, they don't care about us, they just wanted us captive. They just put bait in the trap to get us close enough to snare us. That is every election that ever happens, regardless of who wins it. And it's not just about persuasion, because that's something we should all be good at. It's specifically about deception. I'm going to feed you an incorrect description of me, of reality, to trick you into putting yourself into a position where you're vulnerable to me so I can feed off of you. Everybody else exists to serve them. And you can totally see this, especially when tapes, the Nixon tapes come out and things come out that show what they talk about behind the scenes, and oddly, it doesn't match their campaign persona, does it? And they believe they are entitled to our service. But if they come out and say, I'm going to help the poor, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take care of everybody, and I'm going to protect you, and I'm going to make sure everything's okay, and I'm not going to mention that the way I'm going to do that is by violence. I'm going to talk as if I'm here to help you to get the claws in. Now, as long as you're a good little supply to the narcissist or to the ruling class, they seem pretty nice. People talk about, I've never had a problem with the police, because I do as I'm told, like a good little subject. So they're nice to me. I pick my cotton in the field, the master never whips me. That's because you serve him, you're good livestock. But when somebody decides not to be good livestock, again, whether it's the individual or the subject of a state, and they start to think, maybe you're not perfect, maybe my life shouldn't be about serving you, then you see the monster behind the mask, and they tend to let that slip when they get frustrated when you don't talk, as if they are gods with every right to rule you and control you. Suddenly, out comes the violence. And then you get treated like trashed and demonized and slandered. And in the case of government, you get violently attacked by their thugs with guns. Here is the nastiest part of government and narcissists. They primarily feed off of people's goodness. Their primary victims are people with excess patience and empathy and goodness and trusting and forgiveness. Because those people project their own goodness onto the narcissist or the ruling class. Well, they sound sincere. They sound like they want to help. I would want to help, so I'm going to assume they want to help. And that is what makes it so despicable that it works best on the best people, the people who are most caring, are most compassionate. And that is who individual toxic narcissists target, and it is who governments target. The political left comes out, if you care about the children and the poor and the elderly and the sick and the yada, 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 you will give me the power to help them. And millions and millions and millions of people vote themselves into subservience and slavery because their goodness was used against them. And it's the same on the political right. We're going to protect the innocent from all the nasty, scary threats out there, whether it's foreigners or crime or drugs or whatever. We're going to protect the innocent. They appeal to people's goodness to make them into slaves, and that is what makes it so profoundly evil. The last thing they want is for you to have your own life and your own dreams and your own freedom. Do you ever wonder why the hell politicians spend day after day after day thinking of new ways to forcibly interfere in your life? To whatever extent your desires and feelings and intentions don't serve them, they will sabotage you and tear you down. Projection. When George Bush says they hate us for our freedoms, guess who hates you for your freedoms? The guy who said that. Guess who doesn't care about your freedoms or you or doesn't know anything about you? It's somebody in a cave on the other side of the world. They might care about their freedoms and not be too thrilled about the U.S. military blowing them up, but they're not out to get your freedoms. But the narcissist saying that somebody else is, he's saying that because he is. And narcissists can be amazingly specific and precise in the projection. They will exactly describe themselves when telling you how bad of a person you are. They will accuse you of being exactly what they are. And every politician there are scary, nasty, dishonest people out there. I will protect you from them. You are them. You are not protecting anybody from them. You are pretending that what you are is out there and that you are the savior against that. One of the biggest tactics they use is called triangulation, or in the political realm, that is divide and conquer. They have to pit us against each other. If we're all getting along, if we're all open and vulnerable and human, what the hell would we need a politician for? They need us to be scared of something. They need us to be distrustful. And so they talk to different groups to make them distrustful. Let's see if we can make white people distrustful of black people. Let's see if we can make black people distrustful of white people. Rich, poor, male, female, this country, this religion, that religion. We will pit them against each other. Now, in the case of the individual toxic narcissist, they will gossip to everybody you know, one at a time, telling bad things about every other person you know, to divide everything, like dividing it up into a pie and turning them all against you, so that in the end you are isolated and afraid and looking to them for protection. Gee, what does government always freaking do? Try to make you scared of other races, other nationalities, people who aren't like you, people who speak different languages, so that you are scared and feel isolated, and you look out at the world and go, they're going to come take our freedoms. Please, government, help us. And while they're doing the fear and division trick, they keep doing it until the people are doing it themselves. And they sit back and chuckle as white and black scream at each other, rich and poor scream at each other. Or on the individual level, people are mad at each other based on the lies that the narcissist made up about both of them. And they sit back and chuckle, realizing I'm breaking all the ties, I'm weakening all of them, so that this one person, my supply, has nowhere to turn, has no power, is trapped. Yes, they really are that screwed up. That really is how they think. And like I said at the beginning, that puts normal people at a disadvantage, because most of us cannot fathom looking at the rest of society that way. I want to make everybody hate each other and make everybody think that they need to give me power and glory and attention to save the day. If we can't fathom that, we don't expect it in others. Again, we project our own goodness on others. That makes us vulnerable, because we think they would never do that. To anybody who ever says they would never do that about government, read the Operation Northwoods documents, because that's what they are. That's what the monsters are. They're not what they do in front of a TV camera when they're trying to get your vote. And decent people need to understand that to stop falling for the lies.